This is the Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. I'm your host, Rick McCann, founder and CEO of Private Officer International and Armor College. This morning, we want to pick up where we left off a couple of weeks ago. We began a three-part series about the value of private security and how private security and the people that the industry employs is a valuable link in the chain that protects our nation and our world. And I know that kind of sounds a little strange to some folks who don't know a whole lot about security or what they do in 2023. But the fact is that without the physical, electronic, and other means of security, including high tech today, we would be in sad shape. We all know that these days across the country, law enforcement is sorely understaffed. And we'll go into that today on this program. But we are going to pick it up. Last week we wanted to bring you the ending 2022 officer injury and death report. And sadly, it was not good. It was not good. And 2022 saw a lot of tragic murders. I'm going to tell you when I come back from our first break about the convictions of some of those murderers this past week, which I just applaud. And unfortunately, 2023 not looking a whole lot better. We're at 5 murders in the first 5 days of 2023. 11 known security officers died so far in 2023 from job-related injuries and illnesses and 5 homicides. So no, things are not looking any better. We have a lot of important things to take care of on today's episode. And it's really time for us all to pull together, to unite. And so I'm going to once again go over some ways that you can get involved. That's not going to cost you anything but a few minutes of time. We have a lot of breaking news also that I'll be bringing you, as always, here on the episode of Private Officer Breaking News during probably about the third segment of the show. We'll bring you all of that. In the meantime, I want you to start thinking about unique ways that security makes a difference in the safety of people and businesses. And send me those. helpdesk@privateofficer.com, and I will share them on today's program later in the third segment or bottom half of the show. Remember, anytime that you see news happening, you can send that to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We'd love for you to share that information. We are covering about 3,000 news sources, but of course we still miss things, and we need people like you. We have people throughout the country that do send us a heads up when they see things involving law enforcement and security, and that has been a great asset to have. And we also have people who aren't even involved in the industry who sometimes, through social media, send us a heads up. Hey, this is happening, or that's what happened. And sometimes they include a link and sometimes not. We search it out and get those details. Overall, I think that 2023 has started like 2022, but I don't even want to think about the negative aspects because there's so many positive things happening in security and even in law enforcement, and I hope to share some of those with you today. I told you on last week's broadcast we started a brand new blog called The Good We Do, where we're going to be featuring all of the security and law enforcement great things that they do. Recognition for both private and public law enforcement. And I'll be sending out, or my office will be sending out, somebody will be sending out, maybe our robots, we'll be sending out links to that coming up in the next week or so. We also just completed the first segment of Some Gave All, a new program, a streaming program online where you'll be able to see how private security officers and law enforcement lay down their life for strangers, people that they don't even know. I love this program. I love the content. I love what we're going to achieve and how we're going to recognize our fallen officers. When I come back from this first break, I will be telling you more, and we're going to get into some of the upcoming events as well. You are listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector right here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
The Federal Aviation Administration wants you to fly your drone responsibly. Avoid flying your drone near other aircraft, especially near airports. Fly your drone below 400 feet. Always keep your drone in sight. If you see a safety issue involving drones, contact local law enforcement immediately. Fly smart. Fly safe. Have fun.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab-resistant vests or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516-817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us here on the Private Officer Beat Radio on this Monday morning here in the early morning. Well, not too early. A lot of folks get up in the wee hours of the morning. I'm one of those. I'm usually up by 4 or 5 a.m. even when I've worked the previous day 12, 14, 16 hours. I don't know. My body is just used to waking up at those hours, and I start work early at home and then carry it on in the office. And some people are like that. Others of you, of course, work the overnight, the graveyard, and you're not able to do that. You're up already before the sun. And obviously, I know I have worked that overnight many times. By the time 7 or 8 a.m. comes, I'm ready to hit the hay. I'm ready for sleep. But thank you for being with us. Of course, you can listen to our radio program 24/7. Our radio program is streaming now on 27 platforms, including iHeartRadio, Amazon Radio Network. We're also on Apple and any place really that you can download your podcast or music. Even though we're a radio program, we stream live as well as it streams later on all of these other 27 platforms. And I believe my understanding is that through another distributor that we'll be adding about 17 more networks in the upcoming month or so. And we've got a lot of other great things happening with our radio show and TV programs. I just told you that we just finished production of some gave all. About 2 campus officers in Virginia who lost their life to a gunman. And it was actually pretty sad to work on this project. I was familiar with the shooting. Our school is based in Virginia as well, and we have several law enforcement employees. And so we knew about that shooting and murder of those officers the day that it happened. And we have followed all of the different aspects of the shootings, including the arrest and now the trial process. But we're committed. We're very committed to making a difference in the security industry, and I believe that in this coming year, 2023, you're going to see a lot of changes. I am seeing law enforcement getting more actively involved in crime fighting. People from all sides are screaming for law enforcement to quell the violence in their community. And so security is just an aspect of that equation. And that's why today we'll be telling you about the value that security officers, physical security, adds to the protection of not only our communities, our state, and our country, but also our world. And it really is factual. It's a true statement. Remember, you can read all of our news 24/7 at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. Join the conversation on facebook.com/Private Officer International, and go to twitter.com/Private Officer. There you will hear the voice of the frontline protector. You'll be the first to know. I mean, we pump out that information and news 24/7. We recently began another service where we've networked with a wanted facilitator that sends out information about murder suspects and very violent people wanted across the country. And we've been sending those alerts out. And we've also partnered with missing or lost children networks, and we're sending that information out as well. If you know of someone who's wanted for murder or a violent crime or a missing child in your neighborhood, please send it to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I really just want to remind you one more time that there are many ways for you to get involved. You can become part of one of many committees. You can be on the benevolent committee, which we really need more people to do that across the country. It's not going to take very little of your time, maybe every other few months or maybe only once a year, and it's not going to cost you anything. We'll actually reimburse or pay up front all of your expenses, and we'll train you on how to do it. We're also looking for chaplains. Several of our chaplains recently, within the last year, retired. If you are a certified chaplain, send your information to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We're hiring also. If you are in Virginia and you're a DCJS instructor, if you're a certified special law enforcement officer or a post-certified police officer, we're hiring several positions. Contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com with your resume, certificates, and we will arrange an immediate interview with you. We pay very well, and we offer benefits and great growth opportunities for you. We are going to take another quick break right now. When we come back, I got a lot more to share with you, including a ton load of news. And we'll be talking about the importance of physical security and how that really is the first real link in the chain of protection for our communities, our cities, states, country, and even our world. We'll be right back. Are you a recently retired or maybe active law enforcement officer looking for a different future, maybe owning your own business, former military, public safety, private security professional, EMS, or the fire service, looking for a new way to make a difference while running and owning your own business? At Public Safety Services, we provide services to those who protect us around the world. I'm talking about the police, the sheriff's department, the military. Our organization provides community service officers, private law enforcement, prisoner transport, traffic investigators, and many other public safety service related services to law enforcement agencies across the nation. You can own your own business, be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Contact us at publicsafetyservices.org. Let's talk about how you can make a difference today while owning your own business.
From coast to coast, cops are cracking down on seatbelt violations. Buckle up day and night or expect a ticket. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live, they'll be on the lookout. Cops write tickets to save lives. Click it for a ticket.
This past weekend, Newport News, Virginia, down in the Hampton Roads area of the state, a 6-year-old child shot a school teacher and critically wounded that teacher. A 6-year-old. I'm talking about a child barely able to be in school, pulled a gun when she became upset, and then shot the teacher. Think about that for a moment. This child, who could barely probably write their own name, was able to carry a firearm outside of their home without any parent realizing that they had a loaded gun, make it to the school with that firearm, and eventually, after something set that student off, he pulled the firearm and shot his teacher, 6 years old. According to the FBI, he is one of only two children in the history of recording shootings at schools involved. And let me just say this. It's just unthinkable that a 6-year-old or any student, but especially a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old would be somehow able to sneak a firearm out of their home and into a school and use it to critically or fatally injure another student or a staff member. Newport Police and multiple agencies, including state and federal, responded to the shooting, of course. There are many questions yet to be answered. In my opinion, the parent or parents who had that firearm loaded and in the house should be charged with felonies. We are in a time right now when nothing is making sense. Violence is coming from all directions. Now, I want to also include this little detail in this shooting. Hampton Roads and most of Virginia have school resource officers in high schools,
many schools do not have SROs or security in elementary schools. And the law in Virginia will not allow for a private security officer to be armed with a firearm unless they go through additional specialized training. There was security, but we don't know if that security officer was unarmed. I'm pretty sure that he was. He or she, the security officer, could have been killed. We have seen over the years a number of teenagers who have become active shooters at their schools, fatally or critically injuring many students, teachers, and even law enforcement or security. I don't know what the answer is to this. I have suggested, I've had meetings over the years with how to control this. There are many non-invasive methods of detecting firearms these days, everything from canines, which are now used frequently in hospitals and malls to detect the odor of the gunpowder. And then there are these fantastic metal detectors that stand there at the entrances, and they allow the flow of people into events and buildings, courthouses, and schools. And they stand there silently instead of having to use a wand or some other device that slows down the traffic. These new devices send out a wave, and they can scan a lot of people at the same time. And when they pick up on that metal, it sounds an alarm, and you stop that little group. Many schools, unfortunately, either don't have the budget or don't see the need. But think about it. As we go to this break, a 6-year-old child threw a tantrum or whatever he did, got upset, and pulled a loaded gun and shot his teacher. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector on the Private Officer Beat Radio. Our news is available to you 24/7 simply by going to privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com, and be sure to not only read our news daily, but really look at it as an avenue for training, for knowledge, research. There are many different reasons why people, thousands of people, read our news, both at Private Officer Breaking News Blogspot, as well as at our weekly digital magazine. People also get our newsletters. If you don't do that, please sign up at privateofficer.org. A little box will drop down, and you can fill out your email address. I think you'll find that, it really is has a lot of substance to it, and it is a great way to stay on top of what's happening in the security and law enforcement profession. And be sure to follow us and be part of the conversation at facebook.com/Private Officer International, as well as over on Twitter, where we're pumping out news and information 24/7, twitter.com/Private Officer. Coming out of the state of Washington, a now terminated deputy sheriff has been charged with organized retail crime. Jeremy Zeller, who was 46, was moonlighting as a security officer at the Home Depot. Authorities say that on 8 different occasions he took merchandise and he set it up at the front of the store saying he would purchase it before he left, but then he walked out with the merchandise 8 different times. When people think of organized retail crime, they often see the picture of the groups of people stealing large amounts of merchandise. But guess what? Sometimes it's the enemy within. He's been arrested for this and other charges. He's been terminated. And unfortunately, in the retail security industry, a number of law enforcement officers working off-duty jobs have been arrested over the last few years. In New Jersey, an art teacher overdosed in front of the middle school students. Frank Thompson, 57, was in the middle of giving a class when he suddenly overdosed. He has since been charged with felony counts of controlled substance abuse, possession of drug paraphernalia, and endangering the welfare of children. A teacher. This is who we have in front of our school. At least 19 shootings in or around schools have occurred since the beginning of the year. We're only almost 10 days in to the year. Portland, Oregon police responded to a shooting at the Franklin High School during a basketball game. Police said that 2 teenagers got into it. 1 minor has been arrested in the shooting. In Oklahoma City, at a Walmart there, police working off-duty security was run over by a shoplifter. An off-duty police officer from Forest Park Police was working security when he tried to stop a shoplifter. The suspect jumped into a Mercedes and then tried to run him over. In Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Mohegan Casino Security grabs a big fish, we call them. Through their surveillance and investigation, working with the Pennsylvania State Police who oversee casinos in the state, Jason Richard Cutney, 52, and Louis Grasso, 66, were arrested for swindling money from the Mohegan, Pennsylvania casino. According to security, they spotted some shenanigans, suspicious activity, and what was going on was an employee was in collusion with that other suspect. In New York, police there say 3 men were able to rob and flee with more than $300,000. They robbed an armored car in Brooklyn, and it all began when one man was able to get the attention of an armored security guard and supposedly asked for directions, but that was all just a method, a scheme. How they got the $300,000, I don't know, because armored trucks are supposed to remain secure once the secondary officer leaves that vehicle. In East Windsor, Connecticut, police are looking for thieves who threatened to shoot a store security officer. Police were called to the Walmart there, a loss prevention agent trying to make an apprehension of several shoplifters when they threatened to shoot him. The LP agent backed off and notified police. An alert now is out for those suspects, which could face multiple felonies. Well, in Las Vegas, during the CES show, Consumer Electronics Show, a huge 4.5-ton robotic bouncer was on duty at the world's largest strip club, Mech, the Bot Johnson, a 15-foot tall, 8,800-pound human-controlled robot, was on duty at Sapphire's Las Vegas. According to the maker, the robot was stationed in and outside of the strip club, patrolling, weighing more than 4.6 tons. The human-controlled giant-powered all-terrain robotic mech was flown in from Vancouver just for this event. Security responded to a shooting at the mall in Dunwoody, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta. Perimeter Mall security heard gunfire at the food court. Police notified and responded. According to law enforcement, this is not the first time that shootings have occurred there. The metropolitan Atlanta area, like many places, are attracting young teens. As retail security and physical stores continue to drop, violence continues to rise. A heroic effort out of Georgia, Gainesville, north of Atlanta. A police officer on routine patrol said he saw a boy hanging from a parking deck in downtown Gainesville on Thursday of last week. He was attempting to take his own life. The police officer quickly notified for more units, EMS, and then went up and immediately rescued that boy, who, of course, is not being identified. The police officer, because he was alert, because he acted quickly, saved that teenager's life. Atlanta, Georgia, it seems like a lot of things coming out of Atlanta this week. Atlanta's a big city, 5+ million people. It has a high population of security, but this person is not one of them. Atlanta police looking for a woman disguised as a security officer as she scoped out numerous residences in Buckhead, a well-to-do upscale community. Police say they got video of her dressed as a security officer trying to enter several homes. Police have not made an arrest. In Tyson Corner, Virginia, as in other areas throughout our country, they have formed a special retail police unit. This unit, made up of Fairfax County Police and other agencies, do nothing but patrol the retail stores and malls in Tyson's Corner. Tyson's Corner has a huge multi-block area of malls and strip shopping centers and big box stores, and they are often not only targets of theft but of violence. So now they have a exclusive patrol zone there in Tyson's Corner. The special unit patrols, according to Lieutenant Arnis, who supervises the Tyson's urban team. He says that arrests are up. According to data, the unit made 787 arrests in 2022. That's compared to just 377 in 2021. And according to the lieutenant, arrests already this year are up. Everything from robberies to carjackings to retail theft, organized retail theft, and other violent crimes. Without the unit, area patrol officers probably would not get to the scene quick enough to make those arrests. A man in Houston, Texas, has been awarded $900,000 after going to Houston St. Joseph Medical Center after a minor accident. There was some type of confrontation. Security and police were called. He was shot. This happened a couple of years ago. And now the court has given him, or they've settled for, $900,000. In Chattanooga, A security officer working at a school for a contract security company is under investigation after it said that he punched several times a student for no reason. He told the boy that he could not wear his hoodie outside. The boy said it was cold and he wanted to wear it, and that he would take the hood off once he entered the building. That upset the security officer. The 17-year-old teen was hit a number of times. Police were called. According to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, this remains an open investigation. Unknown if charges will be pursued. And Valley Forge Casino security officer has been charged with theft. In King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, the 61-year-old security officer has been charged after swiping $200 at the casino. The money was left in an envelope by an unnamed resident of the area. It was an accident, but the security officer picked it up and stole the $200 and has now been placed under arrest. Another story about heroes, this time in Sussex, New Jersey. New Jersey troopers took off their own uniform, jackets, shirts, and even body armor. This occurred after troopers tracked a missing person's footprints in the snow and found him in bad condition. They quickly began stripping down, using their own clothing to keep the man warm, even placing body armor on the ground so that he wouldn't be in the snow until EMS could get there. He was already suffering from hypothermia. Firefighters, volunteers, and others were able to fly him out to a hospital, and we are glad to say that he survived and is recovering from home. Another hero, this also being a law enforcement officer, this coming out of Bradenton, Florida. A Florida sergeant is grateful to be alive today after a deputy quickly stepped in to perform CPR and use an AED after the sergeant had a heart attack. Sergeant Brett Kettman had made an arrest and arrived at a substation to complete the paperwork, when all of a sudden he had a heart attack. Deputy Jarrett Leggett, who usually does his paperwork inside the patrol car, decided to stop by the substation at the right time and was able to perform CPR and use an AED and save the sergeant's lives. Coming out of Columbus, Ohio, the capital of the state, the governor, Mike DeWine, says swatting is now a felony. Swatting is any time that you call in to 911 or report to law enforcement that there's a shooting or an active shooter or a kidnapping, and it brings out many officers responding to that. It's now a felony. It's a serious offense. It doesn't matter if you text it, call it, or speak it, you'll be charged with a felony. Another heroic deputy, this is coming out of San Bernardino County, California, Mike Addy, says he's good. And he should know, because he lost a leg, but he was able to get a prosthetic left leg and return to duty at the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office after the leg was amputated in an off-duty collision in 2021. He said he never doubted that he would not only recover, but that he would get back to work one day. And after 14 months and 13 days, he returned to full duty last month. Of course, the initial thought is, what's going to happen? You know, he said, it didn't really faze me. I knew I would get back to work. I just didn't know when. These are the heroes that people and the media just don't have a clue. They don't report it. 3 men are guilty in 3 different security officer homicides, and now we have to update that because we just learned of a 4th. Jalen D. Quinn, 23, pled guilty in the U.S. District Court to fatally shooting a security officer while robbing a bank in East St. Louis. Quinn initially charged with bank robbery resulting in the death. 19-year-old Andrew Brinkley, a second man, was also charged in that shooting. Ted Horn, 56, the security officer, was working that day. He tried to stop the men. That's when Quinn pulled out a semi-automatic handgun and shot him in the head. Armando Diaz took a plea deal in New York this past week in the death of Tony Ramirez, who was working security at a nightclub. The two fought, and then Diaz shot the security officer and fled. He was arrested several weeks later, pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter, and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. In Las Vegas, a man accused of attacking, assaulting, and causing the death of a security officer has also taken a plea deal. A judge sentenced Pedro Lozano, 35, to a minimum of 28 months in prison. Lozano faced a murder charge originally in the homicide of security officer Randy Lyons, who had approached him at the Al Cortez Hotel and Casino after he was accused of causing a disturbance. Lozano forcefully and aggressively shoved the security officer, causing him to fall backwards, hitting his head, and eventually causing a severe brain bleed that led to his death. Police records show that Lozano has been arrested 49 times since 2008. He was also cited and released 10 other times. Private security officers are under investigation, as is their company in Spotsylvania, Virginia, after they were spotted working armed security at public meetings, at the school board meeting. The Commonwealth Attorney of Virginia, the Spotsylvania Sheriff's Department, are investigating the security company because currently the law in Virginia does not allow private security officers to be armed on school property unless they are special police officers, which these security officers were not. That investigation is ongoing, and we're keeping track of that. I'm very familiar with that situation. I know that there's been some issues relating to that previously. Coming out of Charleston, West Virginia, a former security officer has sued his company for age discrimination. Earl Young said that he was discriminated against numerous times while employed as a security officer. This has gone to federal court, and he has obtained an attorney. When you see news happening, please contact us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We have a lot of news happening, and although we monitor close to 3,000 news sources, we're going to miss some of these stories. We're going to take a quick break. When I come back, the value of security, physical security, and how they play a major role in keeping us all safe. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
There was the explosion, and I remember just opening my eyes, and it got both of my legs. I had surgery after surgery, and what's going to happen next? The Wounded Warrior Project said, look, brother, everything's going to be okay. 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, you'll be fine. I don't know if I would be as well adjusted as I am now if it wasn't for them.
To learn more, call 1-877-832-6997 or visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
Can we be real for a minute? I'm a high school math teacher, and I'm a firefighter.
Man, we're going to have you out in just a minute, okay?
I'm a designer.
I'm a retired VP in business.
And I'm a student.
I'm a mother.
I'm a business analyst, and I'm a volunteer firefighter.
You thought we just fought fire?
Firefighters get trained to do so many things.
Right here. Be sharp.
What we do is serious business.
3/4 of the nation's first responders are volunteers. That includes here in Connecticut. And lately, it's been harder than ever, with fewer citizens volunteering.
From teenage cadets like me
to seasoned veterans like me.
So what are you waiting for?
You ready to make a difference?
Ready to join our team?
Your community needs you. We need you. Visit everydayherocc.org or stop by your local firehouse today and take the first step of joining your fire department.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector right here on the Private Officer Radio Network. Now don't go away because we are coming right back when we've got a whole lot more right here on the Private Officer Beat Radio. 2 weeks ago, I sent out an email and posted 6 reasons why private security personnel and private law enforcement officers alike do not receive the appropriate recognition for the work that they do. This was 6 items that we at Private Officer International came up through looking at news stories and other information and compiled this, and we posted it on social media, including Facebook, and we sent out a newsletter to all of our thousands of subscribers, and unfortunately, some people just didn't get it. There were some comments on Facebook, oh, my paycheck is my reward for doing a good job. And obviously those folks who said things of that nature, well, they didn't get the purpose or the intent behind that posting or even that study. And I could say a lot of things about those comments. You know, it makes me feel like they don't respect themselves. And obviously, most times their employers don't respect them either. But anyways, I saw exactly what I thought I was going to see, and that is some people in the security field who just don't recognize how valuable they are. Do you really think that EMTs, firefighters, and police officers who go to work every day and put their lives on the line don't think that the job that they're doing is important or that they should be recognized when they do something above and beyond the call of duty? Now, some security officers do realize the importance of their job, and they do want to be recognized when they do something above and beyond what would be normal duties for their position. And unfortunately, our industry continues to see internal negativity and external negativity in ways that no other profession sees. I have been involved in a lot of different professions. I work closely with many different vendors and companies of our companies that we own. And I can tell you that if you drag your butt around, if you're always head down and shoulders and, sloping and you're dragging, yeah, they're not going to respect you, no matter what profession you're in. Do you know even fast food restaurant personnel are trained to look their customers in the eye, to welcome them? You're seeing this more and more in the restaurant business. Welcome them when they enter the store, acknowledge them, and appreciate them. Communication is done multiple ways, some verbally, some by the way that you carry your body, stand. There are a lot of different types of communication, but people in the business world, including fast food and the service industry, which the security companies are learning to teach their employees how to do better and how to
be more vocal to customers, and this is resulting, studies have shown, in more praise, more thank you from their customers, more acknowledgement, and more attaboys. And, in doing this, more employees are also being recognized by their employers. Many security personnel and the industry as a whole just don't value their service, their business, the importance of their existence. Can you imagine if a fuel provider, if somebody who took raw oil from the ground, or one of the companies who turned that into the various fuels that we use, didn't recognize the importance of their job, their service, and just said, we're not going to do it anymore. Our country, our world is oil dependent. We would collapse as a society. Well, I have news for you. Despite what the anti-law enforcement communities, people, and organizations over the last few years have tried to convince us that law enforcement and security are not needed. We can self-police. We can keep ourselves secure. We can enforce our own rules and laws. But in the last 3 years, violence has increased. Murders have increased. Every type of violent crime that you can imagine has increased in most metropolitan areas and even in smaller communities. And they realize now that law enforcement is needed, that they provide a key element, a key link in the chain of overall security and safety for the community, for the city or town, state, and the country, and globally. Imagine for just one moment, let's just take one area of security, one area of service provided by our security personnel. And let's take loss prevention. I worked there for close to 10 years, even made it through the management ranks. And I can tell you, having been in that field, having been part of understanding shrink, understanding internal and external theft, and how, if left unchecked, would actually cause retailers to go out of business. And if you don't believe me, go check the headlines just from the last 24 months. Retailers have closed down their stores. Walgreens, CVS, even Walmart and others have shut down their stores in high crime areas or areas where they experience hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss annually. So, let's say that loss prevention didn't exist anymore. That we were all convinced, that retailers were all convinced that, hey, we don't need these people. We don't need that surveillance crew. We don't need people to physically apprehend, detain, arrest, prosecute shoplifters. We don't have any bad employees. Nobody that works for us steals. We don't need this security crew. We don't need this expense. We're going to get rid of them. Imagine for one moment that a national chain especially closed down their security department, laid off all of their loss prevention personnel, uniform security, LP and security management, and said, nope, one expense we don't need. We don't have a problem. According to the Jack L. Hayes Foundation, company based out of Florida that tracks loss prevention and retail asset officers, agents, and management, and ORC, and the losses, and also collects all the statistical data like Private Officer International does on the number of apprehensions and how much money that they recover in stolen products and items. Well, guess what? According to them, because of loss prevention, they're able to recover hundreds of thousands, in fact, it's in the millions of stolen property, and apprehend hundreds of thousands of offenders, shoplifters, internal employees, and external shoppers responsible for these losses. But imagine for a moment that the retailer said, nope, we don't need them. They would take a substantial loss, as many retailers have seen in recent years, and they would have to shut down individual stores that had those losses. I have heard time and time again from companies who don't have security, won't hire security, say, well, that's what insurance is for. Insurance is going to cover any loss. Insurance is going to cover any lawsuits that we might have because we don't have security, and maybe an employee, a guest, or someone gets injured and they sue. That's why we have insurance. Others have said, we don't have to worry about it. We're going to write off any loss that we have on our taxes. But you know what? If a store made $1 million in that store and had overhead, including payroll and rent or lease or mortgage and other expenses of $900,000, and they only had $100,000 in profit, and then all of a sudden the loss to that store was $150,000 because of theft, they'd be in the hole $50,000. Private security, whether it's loss prevention or uniform access control or proactive patrolling, is extremely vital in today's world. And we couldn't do it without it. I was just reading an article in Northern Virginia about a specialized law enforcement group, a unit that has been put together by a county police department to do nothing but patrol and respond and conduct enforcement in a high-intensity retail shopping area that experiences not only a lot of loss through theft, but also fraudulent credit cards and carjackings, robberies, and so forth. They understand that if they weren't there, that presence wasn't there, it would be much worse than it is today. Private security, private law enforcement, and law enforcement itself is a vital link in the chain of safety and security for our community, our state, our country, and the world. Without physical security, you see, many people have gone recently to electronic security, and I love electronic security when it's coupled with physical security. Cameras, access control devices, key card devices, all sorts of sensors that can trigger an alarm or activate a camera in the parking lot when somebody crosses a certain area that's not authorized. We have a lot of crime solved through electronic security. Recently, I've been talking about the real-time crime centers developed by law enforcement over the years and now really popular with small to medium-sized police agencies where they sit 24/7 and monitor cameras that are set up in high-violent crime areas, areas that have a propensity for shootings and murders, and they have put in technology such as the cameras, Shot Spotter, which automatically begins recording when it picks up that sound and it sends that signal to police dispatch so that they can immediately dispatch officers to the scene. And they have made multiple arrests and stopped multiple crimes because of that technology. We have to understand that prevention and being proactive is the key to not only preventing crimes, but the key to finding out who committed the crime. And so physical and electronic security work well together. Security, whether that be physical, men, women, or electronic is a vital link to our safety and security. Right now, and I have preached this for a number of years now, but right now security is in the driver's seat. Security companies can pretty much demand whatever billable rate that they want, because companies are going to pay for it. With lack of law enforcement, with police departments being understaffed and under budget, there's no other choice for many companies but to choose private security. And as I mentioned a week or so ago, many areas, including park departments, harbors, city and state and county government, big businesses, residential communities, they're all hiring some form of physical security and enhancing that with the technology of electronic security. The growth of private security has continued over the last 20 years, but certainly over the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen security companies really excel their service offerings, offer things that they wouldn't have or didn't previously, and their revenues have jumped. In some companies, it's skyrocketed. Don't believe me. There are many articles out there. Search the web. We provide the person, we provide a necessary, a vital aspect of safety and security. Even if we just look at access control, where we have a gatehouse or we have some other point of access control where we're identifying people, where we're making decisions whether or not to allow them into the building or onto the property, we are potentially stopping a crime, because bad guys, they don't care. They're going to come in one way or the other, but as long as we have physical security, monitoring the entrance and the exits and monitoring cameras, we are able to prevent many crimes, violent crimes even, from happening. And many security companies are very proactive. And so when something does happen, they're on the ball, and they're making those detentions and arrests of the offenders. You are important, even if you're on the job just for a part-time gig or maybe just a paycheck until you can find something better. I understand that the hourly rate is not good, the benefits really are poor, and I hope to see these things change, and I am seeing a little change in that area. But make no mistake, you are providing a true link in the chain of safety and security for the company that you're working at, for the community, because you are keeping people safe. These days we have a lot of patrol services. They're patrolling big parts of Dallas, Houston, Chicago, and many other big cities. They're actually patrolling the community, reporting crimes, detaining people, because the police aren't there and they're not able to do it. No matter where you're assigned, whether you're at an apartment, a bank, a warehouse, you are preventing crimes from happening, and you are providing a service that a camera cannot provide. Do not think little of yourself. Do not think like you don't really matter, because you do. And in this industry, and I hate to use this phrase, but I do sometimes, mark my words. In this industry, you will see types of security and public safety provided that has never been provided. You will see more quasi-law enforcement agencies pop up. Over 40 private police agencies opened last year or began police departments at hospitals and colleges and private businesses across the U.S. You will see more and more of that. We have private prisons, private correctional officers, private prisoner transport. I mean, think about it. Research Rural Metro, or Metro Rural. They started a private fire department and private ambulance service many years ago. And people said they're going to fail. Nobody needs that. That's what we got. We pay taxes for. We got fire departments. We got ambulances. We're paying. Who's going to want them? And now they're a major multi-million-dollar company with locations in a number of states, contracted to private businesses and governmental entities such as cities and counties to provide fire service and EMS. Where I live, the international airport and the regional airport are both have fire protection through a private airport fire service their primary job is fire and rescue services at airports of all sizes. Believe me, we're important. Whether you're a private security officer or a loss prevention agent or private law enforcement. It's not that things aren't going to get better, because they are getting better. And as we provide more and more services that the police once did, we can demand higher prices. I know several contracts that are being billed at $50 plus, security officers making $25, $26 an hour. I've mentioned this a time or two, actually a few dozen times in recent years, how there are places throughout the country that are paying money like never before to security officers and giving them benefits. Trust me, things are not the same as they were 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. The riots and all of the BLM and all of the other stuff that occurred over the last 3 or 4 years, that was bad stuff. But for the security industry, it actually benefited them, and it will continue to benefit them for years to come. Our country is growing. Rural states that were once all small towns are growing. People are moving to them. Businesses are really speeding into those states, and you're going to see more and more need for not only access control security officers, but you're going to see more and more public safety. And I can give you a list of private security that provide public safety services, including law enforcement, EMS, in a number of communities and businesses. We are important. We're a vital link in the chain. Next week, we'll talk about some of those services that we're providing and how they've changed over the years. I remember coming into this where almost all security officers either worked at a factory, access control, a warehouse, a distribution center, a little bit at a retail or a mall, a few apartments here and there, but that was the scope of their duties and their roles. But my goodness, things certainly have changed, and they will continue to. Thanks for being here with us this week. Y'all be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.